All right, now we are actually ready to burn the pages. So let's see how we can do that. First of all, we'll go to our pentagram, of course, and we'll go from the third pin in our sequence. So this will be like a little cutscene. So before actually burning the pages, we can disable our player's input. So we can get player reference and just disable input. Connect this to the pin. We can actually move these a little bit lower, I think, somewhere like here, and let's continue from there. So we're disabling input of our player, but we also need to plug in the controller. So get player controller, and after disabling the input, we can now rotate our player's camera slowly to the so that he's looking at the pentagram. Because, for example, if we will interact with the pentagram like here, we can't see actually anything happening. We want to move the camera so it is always looking at the center of this pentagram. So we need a new variable called lock camera question mark, and we will set it to true right here. So let's lock the camera. Now we will do a slight delay of 0.5 seconds, and here we will actually throw the pages to the pentagram. But how we can do that? It is very simple. We can just go to viewport, and here we will create a mesh for that. So let's just add static mesh, just like this, and let's call this page 1. Static mesh is set to none, and we need to set the static mesh to a regular plane, just like that. But it's obviously way too big for a page, so what we can do is we can click this little lock icon so we can change these three values independently, and we can set the scale to 0.2. Here it will be 0.3, and here it will be 0.2 as well. So now this looks a little bit more like a page. So as for the material, we can just select one of our pages material. Page, let's select this third one. Why not? But this is just one page, so we can just duplicate this and call this page 2. And now really important, we need to move this page 2, we need to parent this page 2 to page 1. So whenever we move page 1, page 2 is moving as well. But this page 2 is not visible, so we can just do like a slight rotation here, like 10 maybe. And now to prevent them from clipping, we can just change this location to 0.5 so they are not clipping. And we can do that one more time. So duplicate it, page 3, and page 3 will have rotation of 15 and location will be 1. So okay, so now it actually looks great in my opinion. So we can throw these three meshes onto the pentagram, and then the fire will start. But before doing that, let's make sure that all of these are set to visibility. There's visibility is set to false, so we can't see them before we interact with the pentagram. So now let's go back to event graph, where we will set them to be visible. So let's just grab all of these three and set visibility. Let's collect all of them to the target, and the visibility will be true. So they will be visible. And we want to throw them from the player's location to the location of the pentagram. So we need to set location of them as our player's location. But we can just do it for the page 1 because they are parented to page 1. So whatever the page 1 goes, they will follow the page 1. So we will set world location of that page 1. And the location will just be our player reference get actor location. And also pretty important for the pages, we need to make sure that the collision is set to no collision, so it doesn't collide with anything. Okay, so let's actually throw these pages, and to do that we can just use timeline. So let's create one. Let's add timeline, and this will be named TL underscore throw pages. Let's compile, save, and this timeline will be a little bit more advanced because we will create 3 different tracks. Let's open this timeline, and first of all let's make this length of 0.5, And let's create a float track called final alpha. Okay, and here we will create two different variables. The first one will be obviously time 0 and value 0. And as for the second one, time will be 0.5. So at the end of our timeline, and value will be 1. Let's just use these to make this timeline centered. And now, so now let's select both of them, right click, to make them outer. But now I will select this one and I will just move it like this. So the throwing animation will just look a little bit nicer because it will start a little bit faster and then it will get a little bit slower. All right, so let's go to event graph. Let's grab our page 1 and let's set world location. We'll do that in update, of course. And as for the location, we will use lerp vector. Now let's connect final alpha to our alpha, and our A will be where the pages are currently. So we can get pages location or we can just get player's location. Either of this will work. So let's just get player reference and get actor location because this is where the pages are located right now. So let's connect this to A. And as for the B, we will just make vector because now we will get a sphere location. So get world location, and we will split this value because if we will just use this regular value, this x, y, and z, it will get the exact location of the sphere, which means it will clip with the floor. We don't want that, so we will just plug x and y to this make vector. And as for the z, we just need to add something like 0.1. Let's compile, save, and let's test this. Now if I interact with this, you can see these pages are getting thrown onto that pentagram and everything is working fine. But to make this look even better, we can just create a rotation timeline. But we don't need to create a new timeline. We can just create a new alpha channel, alpha track right here. So let's just create a track, float track, and it will be called rotation alpha. We will create two values. The first one will be 0 and 0. The second one will be time 0.5 and values 1. Sorry, 1. And that's pretty much all we need to do here. So we can close this timeline. And you see we have this rotation alpha right here. So what we can do is from this page 1, we can just set relative rotation. And as for the rotation, we can also use lerp rotator, connect this rotation alpha to the alpha, and we'll go from -80 to -30. But it still doesn't look that good, so what we can do to make this even better is instead of just plugging this value right here, we can use another lerp node. We'll connect this to B. As for the A, it will be just our player's location. So player reference, get world location. Sorry, get actor location. Right here. Connect this. Now split this value and connect the Z, which is the height value here. And as for the alpha, we'll create a third track right here, which will be our height alpha. We can now collapse these two. And here we'll do the same thing. So create two variables. Time will be 0, value will be 0. And here time will be 0.5. So end of our timeline and value will be 1. And we don't need to do the outer here. So let's go back to event graph and let's connect this height alpha to the actual alpha right here. And let's see how this throwing animation looks now. Let's play from here. Yeah, now this looks just way better. So the last thing that we need to do before we wrap up this video is that we need to create this camera lock system, because now I can interact with this pentagram standing like here, and now when I throw the pages, it doesn't look that good. We need to make sure our players always looking at the center of the pentagram. So let's go to VP pentagram, and here we have this value this variable lock camera. So what we can do with it is that we can go here and let's create event tick. And we will do the same thing as we did with our Bookhead monster blueprint, where we were forcing our player to look at the monster's arm. We will do the same thing here. So first, let's create a branch because we need to make sure that the camera should be locked. And from here, we will just get player controller and we will set control rotation. As for the rotation, we will use rinterp2. So we will interpolate smoothly from our player reference get control rotation. And as for the target, we will use find look at rotation. From the start will be player reference get camera down there and get world location. As for the target, it will just be our sphere's location. So get world location. Last thing that we need to do is just get world delta seconds. And as for the interpolation speed, we will go with 3. So now this should basically force our player to look exactly to the middle of the pentagram, no matter where we are standing. So let's see. Now interact with it, and you can see this animation is just starting to look so good. The only thing missing is the actual fire. So we can go back to BP pentagram, and from the 4th pin right here, we can add another delay of 3 seconds. And remember when we imported that starter pack, starter content, we also have our particles right here, and we have this fire. So that would be pretty useful. In order to spawn this fire, we can use something called spawn emitter add location. Location will be just our sphere location, so get world location, plug it to location. Rotation scale, everything's fine. Now we just need to select this fire emitter. It's right here. Make sure that auto activate is checked to make it work. And we can also disable auto destroy. After spawning that fire, we can just play sound 2D. And we will first of all play fire fire 01Q. And after that, we can play another sound, which will be fire sparks 01Q. So let's see how this actually works. Let's go to level game. Let's right click play from here. So now whenever I interact with this pentagram, we are throwing the pages, lights are breaking, and this fire is starting. And it actually looks awesome in my opinion.